I just kind of came as myself, and this is me. So thanks for the invitation.
Hey, thank you both for coming on the show. I'm really glad to get you guys on. I haven't seen too much coverage about the southern border. I almost feel like for a lot of people, it's just not an in vogue cause now that they don't have to hear about children in cages anymore. And I think that's one of the few things the Biden administration tried to deal with was unaccompanied minors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a mess. The border's been a mess since 2018, when President Trump at the time basically shut down the southern border and broke the fragile and hobbled asylum process that we had in place. And the Biden administration has tried to reassemble it, and they've not done very well. There are tens of thousands of asylum seekers and migrants just on the other side of the border, looking for immigration relief, as they say. So it's a mess. Billions of dollars are pumped into the immigration industry, which it's now become. And I've told my bosses, I've told my newsroom, since I study it down on the border, this thing is not going away because it is a money making machine, regardless of the administration who's in power.
Hmm. Pascal?
The thing that I find fascinating about this is that the only political faction of the country that seems to be effectively weaponizing what's happening at the border are the conservatives, because they're the only one that's talking about it, and they try to lay it out as a demonstration of the incompetence of the Biden administration. What's really is interesting is that what our guest has exposed to us is that much of the origins of this problem really go back to the Trump administration. Can we get a timeline as to exactly how we got here with the border and who are the real culprits behind this? Or is this basically just both sides are like there's no good guy in this issue at all?
Right. I mean, it all started in 1776 when they, passed the no, but just right. Like, I think the makings of the modern, iteration of the current border crisis do have a lot to do with Trump, right? And it's not just the ramping up of enforcement at the borders. It's also doing things like shutting down refugee processing centers abroad so that it's harder and harder to process people, abroad and have them brought here. Obviously COVID also just did some really weird displacing kind of shit throughout Central America. Anyway, to like put some figures on it, right? So, you have an increase in the number of folks over the last few years that have been coming. It's now up to, I think the latest number I saw is about 1,000 people a day are coming up through Central America, which is roughly the amount of people that the administration is turning back at the border every single day, right? But which is nothing to say, of course, of the already massive amount of people that have been sitting outside of the border basically since the Trump administration.
Jesus.
To John's point, on the hobbled asylum system, it's like the backlogs were already terrible, right? So it's not just like a front end bottleneck; it's also a back end bottleneck. So now the average immigration case in immigration court takes roughly 4 to 5 years to be seen through end to end. So it's like even if you were to give the system, like the some credibility and legitimacy in some meaningful way in terms of actually hearing people and actually processing claims, it's not doing it in a way that's going to get through all of the people that are piling up on the other side, right? And so to loop it all back to what Pascal was saying, it's like, so now you have conservatives, right, red states in particular, who are capitalizing on this. You have in Pascal's backyard, right? Florida just passed one of the most comprehensive anti-immigrant bills that makes it a felony to traffic people by bringing an undocumented person into the state, collecting DNA off of migrants who are on ICE holds, all kinds of stuff, right? Like Texas, and the buoys and shit, all these different folks sending National Guard to the border. They're all making a lot of great hay of it. Of course, it doesn't, you don't even have to be a historian at this point to look at how deterrence has never actually done any kind of meaningful deterring, because the socioeconomic global capitalist push factors are bringing people not just from Central America anymore. We were actually talking before the show how there are Russians, Ukrainians, Afghans, folks from Haiti, from the Caribbean, Africa. It's like, and folks are actually making those treks from the other side of the world to Mexico to try to make land entries at the border.
Jesus.
What
Now,
about
go ahead, Pascal. I'm sorry.
there was an argument that I found being made by many on the right as well, that argued that simply because Biden won the election, it gave immigrants the belief that immigration would be eased, and as a result, it increased the number of migrants who are trying to flow into the country. Is that pure speculation and hogwash, or was there any truth to that?
Yeah, I'm going to be myself right now since I'm not, broadcasting live on our television station, but it's complete horseshit. And the Republicans are winning the talking points with whatever issue they've got at hand. They're so convincing, whether it's supporting Trump, through the latest indictment, or making it seem like these mothers and children and elderly folks that are looking for economic relief coming in from Venezuela, as if they're murderers and rapists, and carrying the bundles of of marijuana on their back, and that's just not the case. So the Republicans highly politicize this game, and Texas right now, Pascal, I've got to tell you, if you want to pay attention to immigration, pay attention to what's happening in Texas, because we are ground zero, more than Arizona, more than California when it comes to politics. Over the last 2 legislative sessions here in Texas, Governor Abbott has been able to finance his Operation Lone Star border security measures to the tune of $10 billion.
Oof.
Think about that. This is a state paying $10 billion for their own border security. We're talking, extra DPS troopers. We're talking the National Guard. We're talking fencing. We're talking wires in the river. We're talking buoys that are doing nothing. They're tied up in litigation right now. So the Republicans are winning the talking points when it comes to border security, keeping people safe in America. And the Democrats have done a terrible job at managing the asylum process. They have tried. I've witnessed them try with policies. And what they're doing now with a lot of the asylum seekers is they're using an application with their phone, CBP1. They show up to the border, they download the app, they try to make an appointment. And, they only allow so many appointments in per day. And then once they're in the country under, Biden's, new policies to offer immigration relief, a lot of these people are let into the country without permission to work. So of course they're going to work in the dark. Of course they're going to take the jobs that nobody wants. They're going to mow lawns. They're going to work in kitchens. They're going to clean for not even minimum wage. They're going to take whatever job they can take in construction, because the Biden administration is not giving them that permission slip when they're allowed to be in the country to actually work. And I talked to the migrants because I followed them through the process, and they're frustrated. Like, can you find me an attorney so I can get permission to work in the country? I'm like, you're going to have to work your local resources. I mean, I'm just a journalist covering the events, but nobody's held the Biden administration accountable for, why are you not giving these people permission to work in the country if this is what Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said was going to happen back in December when they were going to start letting these people in. Why don't you give them permission to work? And so there we have it. It's a money-making machine. People are still working for next to nothing just to put food on the table. It's a slow process to get in. They're fleeing economic disparity, conflict, authoritarian rule, climate change, and the list goes on. One thing that I want to say, that I have to tell everybody, people that are not paying attention, that's very important in this equation. Right now, we're witnessing the greatest immigration flow on the face of the world in all of human history. I mean, this is historical in biblical terms, as they say, and more people are looking for relief, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. As we see the fire that's burning up Hawaii, hello, we're a mess. So none of this is going to slow down. Policies are bad. Human beings like you and I and everybody listening to us talk about this issue, it's not going to get better for any one of us.